Hey guys, and welcome to the ultimate duel. We have seen Grimgor Ironhide, one of the scariest greenskins in the universe, led by Walt the Salt, up against Bajark and the Empire Kite build. Now, can the biggest, scariest, toughest greenskin ever to live take down a Kite? Only time will tell. And honestly, kiting against the greenskins is incredibly difficult, so big props on the balls of the Empire player here to attempt such a feat. Now, for the forces of the greenskins and Walt the Salt, we do have double Goblin Wolf chariots. These pesky little chariots are rather a little nifty and a big pain in the butt to enemy skirmishers. They can get in there and really mix up with the best of them. Just in front of the formation as well, we have some Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers as well as the Death Creepers. Now, these are the main reason you never really want to skirmish up against the greenskin forces, or at least take them toe-to-toe on a skirmish fight, and that is because the Spider Rider archers, as well as their basic Forest Goblin Spider Riders, are disgustingly cost-effective. They'll poison you, slow you down, bog you down, and with the war, they can even punch relatively decent as well. That's not the end of the mobility for the greenskins. We do have double Orc Boar Boys as well, and then a ton of Night Goblin Fanatics and Orc Boys, as well as Black Orcs dotted throughout the main battle line. The Black Orcs in particular I'm a big fan of, because mixing in something that can punch really hard in a build like this can certainly catch your opponent off guard. In the back lines, we have double Goblin Rock Lobber protected by a single unit of nasty Skulkers who are skulking in the backs of the formation. And we have a nice little hero blob as well, an Orc Shaman coming in with a Humble Brain Buster, as well as a Goblin Big Boss with They Need Stabbing, I believe what it's called. Yeah, They Need Stabbing, minus 30 armor and 24 melee defense on a Lorder hero, will turn Grimgor Ironhide into the ultimate duelist, because he also comes in with some rather nifty abilities. It looks like he hasn't brought all of them, but he has Gitsnick, as well as You're Next, which is a really useful hex you can pop on the enemy. Minus 24 melee attack, minus 48% speed, which is insane, allowing him to actually catch these fast-moving opponents, and minus 40 melee defense, turning the Grimgor into an absolute one-man wrecking ball, at least for the duration of that. Now, for the Empire build, it's a really fun build. So we've got a couple of infantry units. We have Halberdiers, as well as some Spearmen, as a huge infantry corps there. That's all he has. And apart from that, it is a Huntsman, double Huntsman there, double Huntsman in the centre, and double Huntsman or single Huntsman over on the right-hand flank. We have the Black Lions, Regiment of Renowned Warwagon Hellblast, which is currently loosening some shots downrange on those archers. A really good counter-skirmish unit all round. We have the Royal Aldorf Griffites in all their glory, bounding towards the enemy, who, of course, can punch quite heavily. We have Marcus Wolfhart. Of course, it wouldn't be a Empire skirmish build without the Huntsman himself. And in the distance, we have some Empire Knights dotted around to help protect the ranged core of this build. So, really fun build. We also have a Light Wizard darting forward, coming in with the net as well as a banishment, and the net of course going to be very key at keeping the greenskins at bay. Now the greenskins up there with Norska, probably two of the best rush factions in the entire game, so it's certainly going to be a busy day for the Empire forces and these Empire Knights to try and push back the Death Creepers and other such units. But the Huntsmen are very good in this situation, though. A big fat Brainbuster is going to go down. Luckily the Huntsmen do have a rather spread out formation, so they don't take too much damage, and the Black Orcs, unlike them, have a rather close formation, so that banishment is going to tear through them, rip them limb from limb, but they're relatively heavily armoured, and yeah, they're not taking too much damage at least. On the far side, Goblin Wolf Chariots need to be a little bit careful. Royal Aldorf Griffites are coming in to tussle, and they're getting absolutely obliterated so far by the Black Lions, who the Goblin Rock Lobbers are assigned to target. These Chariots need to fall back immediately. Royal Aldorf Griffites getting in there, starting to club and tear them apart, and all these little wheels will be coming off. It looks like they are terrified for now, but that will give them a little bit of a boost to escape as quickly as possible. Greenskins decide to completely abandon the back line of the Goblin Rock Lobbers, which isn't a terrible idea, considering there's simply no way they're going to get particularly great value here. And well, he's got two options. He can either sit back and defend these guys, or he can get aggressive, and I think getting aggressive against skirmish builds is certainly the way to go. Goblin Big Boss has Leroy Jenkins into some Spearmen, pin them in place, allowing the Night Goblin Fanatics to catch up. And it looks like one unit of Empire Knights is now getting completely swarmed. Double Orc Boys, Black Orcs, everyone's in here having a laugh and carving up these Knights, dragging them from their mighty steeds into the dirt, but they're doing the job they need to do. Pin these units in place, and we have 4 units of Huntsmen raining fire down with their bonus versus large into the Orc Boar Boys. The Light Wizard has taken quite a big pounding, but a lovely net is going to keep these Orc Boys pinned in place. Brainbusters going down left, right, and centre. In the central core, though, the Greenskins are piling through even faster. Black Orcs and Orc Boys desperately trying to shut down the Huntsman and as well as Marcus where possible. It looks like Grimgor is currently just buddy with his Goblin Big Boss, carving his way through a couple of the Spearmen, who certainly aren't going to be having a good day up against such a mighty foe. In the back lines, the Royal Aldorf Griffites have managed to shut down the Goblin Rock Lobbers, but all the while, the Death Creepers, as well as the Spider Rider Archers and the Chariots, are going to be peppering them, poking them down over time, doing some really nice damage, and there is no healing on this Empire force. Orc boys have been forced off at the moment, but the Black Orcs are continuing their advance, as are the Orc boys. And that poor little wizard did get hit by Your next, allowing Grimgor and the Goblin Big Boss to catch him and slow him down with the poison from the Big Boss, allowing Grimgor to cleave Gitsnick into that guy's face and force him off the battlefield. Looks like Huntsmen are in full retreat, and there aren't many knights left to protect them. We have some over here, 20 in fact, but that's not going to last too long. And in the distance we have the roll out of Griffites, but they're a little bit busy. Some Empire Knights are going to be charging to try and finish off the Orc Boar Boys, but they need to get back here and help protect the ranged core, otherwise it is certainly going to be game over. Grimgor is rather healthy at this point, and the combination of him, as well as the Nasty Skulkers and Night Goblin Fanatics, just going to be carving apart these brave men of the Empire. Always love to see Halberds in action though. They're a really cool unit, but unfortunately getting swarmed here and obliterated. Puffs of blood raining down on the cheering goblins. In the back line, once again, Orc boys are starting to pressurise Huntsmen, and there's not too much left to protect them. Some Empire Knights do come in to carve up some of the Black Orcs for a nice rear attack. Looks like the Orc Shaman is having to get engaged in combat to try and get some value back. His Brainbuster is not very good up against the enemy formation. Nasty Skulkers, as well as some more Night Goblin Fanatics, can push through, and we do have a war coming down, which is going to increase, of course, all these guys' damage output, as the Huntsmen desperately try to flee, and Orc boys do get hit by a Hunter's Snare. Grimgor Ironhide looks like he may wander into it as well, and you know, he's going to be a bit of a problem. There's not too much in this build which can really do huge burst damage to him, apart from Marcus and the Black Lions. Black Lions have done a good job so far, up to 88 kills, but now the Wolf Chariots have engaged with them, and those spiders creeping, scuttling across the battlefield. That'd be a horrifying sight to sound, the big kind of pitter-patter of feet from the spiders, and it looks like the Black Lions may be doomed, and some of the Huntsmen slowly getting dragged down. A really lovely smoke bomb play. Nasty Skulkers float over here, pop a smoke bomb, allow the Night Goblin Fanatics to catch them, and then they move on to other targets. Poor Marcus Wolfheart has been hit by Your next, slowing him down, allowing the Black Orcs to close the distance, but he's still got a little bit of moves on him, as he does kind of jog away lightly, but the Black Orcs are going to come in here and start hammering him down. That'd be a horrible fate. Imagine moving super slow because you've been hexed by something, knowing that you can't escape an on-rushing gigantic greenskin. Black Orcs do manage to force off some of the last of the Empire Knights. Huntsmen, though, are firing into their rear now, doing some really lovely damage value on them, and that Shaman will be going down soon if the Huntsmen do switch targets onto him. Being on his boar is going to be a bit of a nerf, in fact, here, because of the bonus versus anti-large, I should say, that the Huntsmen get. In the distance, we can see the Black Lions attempt to be saved here by the Royal Outdoff Griffites, who have now dealt the blows in the back line and come back to try and get a bit of revenge, but the Black Lions still have 3 models left. That's their entire damage output is still viable, so trying to save them is certainly going to be a good idea, although it looks like the Greenskin player is going to be a little bit crafty, moving one of the chariots around to continue to pressurize it, whilst the other spiders do fall back and hunt down some of the Huntsmen. But the Black Lions do rally here with a couple of good, well-placed shots. They will be able to destroy the Goblin Wolf chariots. This battle is hugely stretched now. Well played to both players. The micromanagement is pretty insane. Nasty Skulkers, though, do force one unit of Huntsmen into the corner of the map, and those Huntsmen certainly going to be doomed now. Those prison shanks just hamstringing them as they try to flee. There is no escape for you. More Huntsmen, though, do some good play in the back here, forcing off Black Orcs, who have now been broken. Orc boys just about rallying, but the Orc Shaman in the distance has been broken themselves. Greenskins are all over the battlefield. In fact, Marcus Wolfheart does get caught up by Grimgor Ironhide as he strangles a Kite to death. Die, Kite of Death! He screams, but looks like Marcus Wolfheart is going to be about to survive here. Routing from the battlefield, but he's got some pretty nifty speed on him, and if the Black Lions can rain down some fire and the Royal Outdoff Griffites get in here, they can certainly pin the remaining troops in place. And the Royal Outdoff Griffites do cause terror, which could be an absolute nightmare for Greenskin forces, particularly in the late game. Balance power is slightly in favour of the Greenskins at the moment, catching some of those Huntsmen in the distance, but there's a ton more to reappear. However, if the Death Creepers are active, they can certainly hop on these guys, shut them down, and their regen will actually be pretty key. Looks like the Royal Outdoff Griffites are deciding to try and force back the chariots and allow the Hellblasters of the Black Lions to rain fire in from afar. And it looks like they're going to be able to do some pretty decent work. Up to 106 kills. They do line up their next shots. Bam! Loosen shots aiming at Grimgor Ironhide. And it looks like a few of those shots actually nearly hit Marcus Wolfheart, who is down to 510 health. His snare net would be so useful now if he can be saved. Grimgor actually disengaging right now from the Fanatics, allowing them to solely claim glory. Looks like he's kiting back and forth, trying to juke those shots, but in come the Royal Outdoff Griffites. There's going to be a bit of a mistake having Grimgor so far away from the hunt, because now these mighty warriors of Sigma should be able to crash in, force off the Fanatics, and maybe save Marcus Wolfheart. But a crafty play once more. Greenskins actually drop those Fanatics down the line, doing some nice damage to the Royal Outdoffs, but it's not going to be enough to stop them. And Night Goblins, in fact, are terrified by the mere presence, and that should save Marcus, at least for now, but Grimgor hunts his prey once more. The Black Lions were unfortunately sacrificed to allow that save of the Lord, and it looks like the chariots do manage to beat them down. Unfortunately, go through in smoke and fire. In the distance, it looks like Huntsman simply being forced off now by some Orc boys, allowing the Nasty Skulkers to come back into the fray, and the Death Creepers have been able to hunt those Huntsmen and haunt their dreams in the distance. A big fat Hunter Snare does go down, going to allow Marcus some time to continue to poke down Grimgor, who is getting relatively low. A big shot coming in doing massive damage, down to 2,100 health at this point. Marcus is having to fall back out of the range of these chariots, as well as the Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers, who are out of ammunition at this moment. All out of Griffites are going to have to be very, very busy right now to try and protect Marcus, who is going to continue to kite back in towards the corner of the map, doing some nice damage to Grimgor as he does go. But the Spider Rider archers continue to poke, as well as these chariots. You can't be everywhere in one go with the single unit of the roll out of Griffites, and the Greenskin player seems to know this. Nasty Skulkers are slowly making their way over. This map is absolutely gigantic. These Huntsmen may not really have kind of any say in the remainder of the battle, if this part can be made decisive by the Greenskin forces. Death Creepers starting to come over, but again they're out of ammunition. The sheer damage output by Marcus Wolfheart has forced Grimgor to start to rout from the field, and now the out of Griffites can either bound back and save Marcus or come over here and punish Grimgor. I don't know which one I would do. I'd probably kill Grimgor, honestly. Go there, ensure he dies, and from that point onwards, I think the Royal Aldorf Griffites would be able to carry the day against everything, with their terror and the lack of leadership coming in from the forces of the Empire, from the forces of the Greenskins. It would definitely be worth it. You have to kill Grimgor. I think that's more important than saving Marcus, but perhaps he thinks he can do both, because Marcus, being alive, of course, can snipe down Grimgor, who's down to just 868 health, but he needs to make sure every single arrow is going into Grimgor and not into other units. Looks like he is lining up a shot, and it does instead go after the chariots, which is an okay idea, trying to keep himself alive, but it's not about you, it's about the greater good, and he really needs to kill Grimgor at the moment. Big shot coming in, big old burst shot, though that does actually take down a couple of Griffites, which is absolutely hilarious. Bit of friendly fire for all the good work they've done. Goblin Wolf chariots are now forced off, but in comes the Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers, trying to finish off Marcus. If they can just break his morale, then maybe, just maybe, they can get him off the field as more riders do arrive. Nasty Skulkers as well, slowly making their way into the battlefield. Grimgor is here. Unfortunately, he can't drop his hex down on units, it's only on characters. Otherwise, he'll be able to catch these pesky elite Demigryph Knights. Looks like it's going to go in there and get a couple of kills. One strike, cleaving a warrior from his mighty steed. Death Creeper is going to be used to pin these guys in place. A big shot does come down from Marcus Wolfheart, but it does completely miss. And this is going to buy time now for the chariots and Spider Rider archers to get into that back line and do some really nice damage. Of course, we can see the glorious Grimgor covered in the blood of friend and foe, slaughtering his way through. It looks like one of these poor brave men of the Empire has decided to take the fight to the enemy, and unfortunately this is no fairy tale ending for those poor men of the Empire. Instead, Grimgor will hack and cleave them apart. Only 600 health left on him though. If one or two more shots can come in the rear, perhaps there is hope yet for the Empire. Balance power is currently in the Greenskins' favour. It was heavily in the favour of the Empire for a while when Grimgor was running for the hills, but the Empire player did not, unfortunately, capitalise on that by forcing him off at all costs. And Marcus Wolfheart is now surrounded by 4 chariots. Wolves are at the gate, nipping at the heels of Marcus Wolfheart. And it looks like he is routing from the field. Now, the chariots may be forced off as well by some of the Griffites who have desperately tried to drag themselves back away from Grimgor. He's just having a whale of a time laughing and mocking Marcus, who flees. But the chariots are now free of their restraints, and there's no way Marcus can come back from this. Now, there's still the outdoor Griffites. There is still Huntsmen who have finished off some of the Orc boys, and a decent amount of ammunition, which could be used to sort out Grimgor. But unfortunately, they're too far away from the battle. The Griffites, desperately trying to kite backwards, are getting poisoned now by the Death Creepers, who have been some really fantastic MVPs throughout this entire battle. And now Grimgor comes over the hill. What's that coming over the hill? Is it a monster? Yes, it is. And it is a big, fat victory to the Greenskin forces. A Pyrrhic victory, though. They lost pretty much all of their troops. Fantastic game. Well played to Walk to the Salt, as well as Bajark, is what I'm going to say your name is. I apologise if I get that wrong. Really well played. Interesting builds from both players. I love the Goblin Wolf Rider chariot play, and of course Grimgor. Who doesn't love Grimgor? But the Empire style of build is rather fascinating. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off here. Now, we will go through all the damage value and damage stats, all that good stuff. But just before that, hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up. It really helps push the videos out to more people so we can slowly, engulf the world in total war madness. Feel free to subscribe as well if you do enjoy this type of content. It means they pop up a little bit more on your YouTube feed and help support the channel as well. There's links down below to my Discord if you want to send your replays like Walter the Salt did. And also, if you want to be a hero like Walter the Salt and become a patron of the channel, there's a link down below to how you can do that as well. But now for the build, I love the Black Lion pick. Now, the Black Lions in the right situation can do amazing, and this is one of those situations where the enemy skirmishers really need to try and focus down the Huntsman, so it kind of allowed it to shine a little while. 1,559 damage value, 11k damage dealt. Really nice micro from Bajork there. Keeping him alive and doing well. Royal Aldorf Graphite, I think, had it in them to win the game at the end. As you can see, nearly 1,200 damage value, over 8,000 damage dealt. Really solid performance by them. Unfortunately, not quite paying for themselves. But if instead of jumping back to save Marcus, they popped forward and slaughtered Grimgor, drove him off the battlefield, the negative to the leadership plus the terror from these beasts, I think, would have won them the game. So a little slip up at the end, but I understand as well, want to protect your lord. That is the initial instinct rather than going for the kill. Empire Knights, of course, not there to get their value, but pin in the enemy. Did a good job allowing some of the Huntsmen to shine. 845 value here, 580, 600, 1,000, 1,000. Really doing a good job protecting those troops. Of course, the Spearmen and Halberds, I probably would have just cut them and maybe tried to perform one more Empire Knight because they didn't really perform a role here in the end, unfortunately. The mobility of the Knight probably would have helped kind of pin in the enemy a little while longer. Equally, the caster going down was a bit of a shock, but maybe he wasn't expecting the "you're next" from Grimgor. And Marcus doing a really solid job kiting to the death. Nearly 9k damage dealt, 1,886 damage value. As for the Mighty Walter the Salt, Grimgor still got in there, still did the damage at the end of the day, and held the line for the lads. 3,262 damage dealt, 1,116 damage value is pretty impressive. Goblin Big Boss did very well as well, 1,400 damage value. Hunting down that Lightcaster was a particular highlight of his career. The Orc Shaman unfortunately fared a little bit worse, only, just under 600 damage value. Brainbusters weren't going to be really good up against this build, but I like the pick regardless. Good for taking down, blocks of silver bullets, gunners, that type of unit. As for the lads, unfortunately, they spent most of the game chasing. Nasty Skulker play was really nice, particularly some of the smoke bombs, and real MVPs here as well. One unit Nightgoblin Fanatics managed to get toe-to-toe with the enemy, 1,196 damage value. Probably those Fanatics going through the Demogryphs helped quite a lot. Black Orcs were a really nice, solid kind of center anvil, I suppose, or anchor, I should say, for this Greenskin build, but again, they couldn't really perform because of the kiting potential from the Empire forces. So, likewise, the Orc Boars just kind of got shut down by Demogryphs, and just sheer shooting from the Huntsmen when they got pinned in early by some of those Knights, just got whittled down and picked apart from afar. However, the Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, 1,100 damage value on these ones. Death Creepers 1.5k, absolutely pivotal in winning today's game. And the Wolf Rider Chariots, one getting 1.2k damage value, beautiful work. The other one unfortunately getting slaughtered early on, likewise with the Goblin Rock Lobbers. And I think Walter the Salt made the right approach here. He could have sat back, could have tried to defend the Rock Lobbers and kind of use his arch to try and kite the enemy, but I think getting on the front foot, pushing those Huntsmen to the edges of the map was really the good way to do this, and it certainly kind of proved the dividends here. So anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.